I'm Heidi. I'm one of the family history librarians for Eastern Regional Library. And at this time of year, as we celebrate Anzac Day, many of us pause to remember our ancestors who have served in one form of military or another. This presentation relates mainly to do with Australian and British military records. So let me show you how to discover more about your military ancestors through online records that are available to us at the moment. Now, please remember that all records do not still exist, and a lot of them are not available online. So there is things that you're going to have to look for once we go back to our normal situation. Firstly, we're going to have a look at our Eastern Regional website. And if you scroll your mouse over the word service, go down to Family History and click on it, it takes you to our Family History page. If you scroll down a little bit, we've got this great box here, which has got our links for Ancestry and Find My Past, which I'll explain to how to get to from home while we're closed a bit later. Now, on the right-hand side here, we've got helpful links. Now, these are divided into headings, which our family history staff have already decided for you, and allow you to click into different websites by just with the records that are there. So, they include both free and pay-to-use services. If there's any that are not working, just let us know and we can fix those. Now, Australia. The Australian Army was gradually formed between 1899 and 1903. The records majoritively are held by the National Archives and more recently the various Defence Force archives. Only records of people who have passed away are available to the general public. You cannot request records of someone that is still living under our current privacy laws. But if you personally have served, you can request your own records. Between 1870 and 1901, and this includes those men who served at the Boer War, all their records are held by each individual state's public records office or state archives. Many of these are not online, and you will need to contact the relevant department to organise access. Prior to 1870, all the military service record was considered British Army, and as such, are held in England. So, the first place we're going to have a look at today is the War Memorial in Canberra, and it has all the nominal rolls for men and women who served in either World War I or World War II. The Department of Veteran Affairs has the nominal rolls for Korea and the Vietnam Wars. And at this stage, records are not available for anything more recent, such as the Gulf Wars. So, National Archives. To access those, we're looking at our links down here and just clicking on military records. And we scroll down till we find the National Archives of Australia over here on the left-hand side and click on the underlined word. That didn't work too well. So click on Record Search and we've gone into the searching database of that. So let's have a look at actually someone's service record. I'm going to type in Edward Waldron, and we're looking at the First World War, so 1915 through to 1918, and click search. As you can see here, some have got a little pages and others haven't. Now, if the pages are there, it means that person's record has been opened, assessed and digitised. And therefore, you can actually get that full record just by clicking on the digitised page. If there's nothing there, that person's record has not yet been digitised, and you can then apply directly to the National Archives to have that done. So today we're going to have a look at what is in that record. So if we click on this one, which is one of my relations, and we've just expanded the screen, it shows us the original enlistment record. So here we have his name, Waldron Percival Edward, the date he joined, and which unit or regiment he joined. If we scroll down a little bit, we've got where he was born, how old he is, his occupation, whether he's an apprentice or not, if he's been married, who the next of kin is for this purpose, and in this case it was his father. It also asks us, he got a criminal record. Has he served in any form of military before? If so, or has he ever been rejected? And then down the bottom, we've actually got a signature. And for some people, that's really an important thing to them. And in this case, our document is 29 pages. So let's have a look at the next page. This part shows us whether he was accepted for the enlistment or not, because not everybody was. He's also taken an oath to support the cause, and in this case, World War I. The next page shows us his age, height, weight, chest measurements, complexion, eye colour, hair colour, religion, and if he had any scars or moles or anything like that, they would be listed here. And then down the bottom, a signature to say that yes, he's fit for active service. If we continue through the document, it shows us where he's served, countries, any training he's done, whether he's changed regiments, any promotions, and ultimately when he came back to Australia. And again, something similar, information about the family or that person. Yes, there are some blank pages from time to time, but that's fairly normal. We also have a casualty form, which is quite an interesting thing because it tells us if that person's been injured or not, and also if he was killed in action. In this case, he wasn't. But if he was, it actually will tell you exactly which battlefield he died on, which is, for some people, really important to know. But it also tells us when he's been to hospital and when he's went out of hospital back onto the battlefields. It also sometimes will show us if he's had any leave or other things. And as you can see, there's just numbers of pages. And sometimes they're very similar, others they're not. As we go through, any documentation that has happened in regards to this person or his service is included in it. And in this document or group of documents, he's asking about what medals he was entitled to. So on the very last page, let me get to it, it shows you which medals he was actually issued, which if you're the family and you wish to wear them on Anzac Day, you might like to know that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to have a look at is we're going to have a look back at Ancestry. So let's go back to our web page, click back on Family History, and scroll down to the Ancestry. For those of you who use Ancestry, you have to come into the library and click on this little box. While we're in lockdown for coronavirus, you just click on that little box in Ancestry. It'll open up asking you for your library card number and PIN, and you pop those in and you're straight in. Now, normally you would have those with you. If you don't have those, just give us a call and we can help you. Now, alternatively, Find My Past is a little bit different. Again, you do have access from home, but you will need to ring us to get the login and password. Okay, next, let's have a look at some of our newspaper archives. So again, we go down to, in this case, newspapers, and click on that. And we're going to have a look at Trove. And that takes us straight in. Trove is the National Library in Canberra, have digitised newspapers right through from Australia's very early days through to about 1954 in full format. And so there's some amazing finds in there, both military and non-military. Now, if we put in a person's name, we may find that person, we may find their troop movements, if you know which troop they were in, promotions, court-martials, reports of their death, or something else entirely. So now we're going to go back again to our list here. Let's now look at some of the British records. Again, they are still under the military records link here. And we can scroll down to overseas and we'll have a look at the National Archives for the UK. Now this is a free search database, but most of the records are, if you want them, you actually have to pay. They do include peacetime records as well as wartime records. So things like people's service time in places like India with the British Army during the 17 and 1800s. Please remember when you are looking for British records that as there was a lot of things lost during the Blitz because the Germans targeted military installations, which of course where military records are kept. But in saying that, there is still a lot out there. There is quite a few other sites which cater to British records, such as War Forces, and there's another one called Fold 3. But again, both of those are pay to use. Fold 3 also has a lot of American records on it. If your ancestors were killed in World War I or II, you might like to have a look at the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. And in that, you can actually do a search and it can tell you where your ancestors' memorial is. In a lot of cases for Australians, that is in France or Belgium. If they actually had a body to bury, which I know sounds fairly morbid, but a lot of people were buried on the battlefields themselves, not in cemeteries. But if they had a cemetery burial, you can actually get a plot and a map of the cemetery that they're in to have a look at. So now it's your turn. Have a search for some of your ancestors, see if what you can discover about their military history. Just remember, not everything is online and some of the records do not exist any longer. But don't despair if you can't find much or anything at all. And if you would need any help, both Charles and I are happy to take your phone calls. Thank you and good luck with your search.